Barry Spencer, co-creator of Wealth with No Regrets, to ask the question, are you ever confused about the stocks that you own? It's not an uncommon question or confusion that many people have. And if that's you or ever has been you, you're not alone. I was thinking of a person we met with recently and just coming in to talk for the first time to kind of explore what it might look like to work together. But more importantly, we were looking at a review of their current holdings. They are like so many typically, and I'm using a broad range of folks, not someone in particular I'm going to call by name, but they had a portfolio that I see often. That is, they have two different advisors. Sometimes we see 3 or 4 advisors, but in this case, there's 2 different advisors that I'm thinking of. And then we went through and we evaluated the portfolio to help them understand what they owned. One of the things that we came to was there was one stock that was a great proportion of their overall portfolio. I'm going to call that company, I'm going to use Amgen as an example. That wasn't the exact company, but I'll give an example. So Amgen, a pharmaceutical company, large pharmaceutical company that does a lot of cancer treatments and the like, and let's just call it that they were owned 9% in their portfolio, which is a fairly large allocation to one company. Well, they own this one company and they said, well, we'd like to reduce that if we could. Because really we feel more comfortable at owning no more than say 2 to 3% of any one company. That's a good diversification that keeps us without a lot of single company concentration risk and the like. So we had conversations about how they ended up in that place and so forth, which that's for another time. But what we came to the conclusion was it was nearly impossible to actually reduce their, I'm going to call it 9%, allocation or holding to Amgen down to 2 or 3%. And here's why. Though they hold Amgen, let's call it 4 or 5%. Let's call it 5% was owned the individual stock. Well, the other 4%, that gets us to 9, was owned across many mutual funds and ETFs. They didn't know this, of course. And ultimately, the problem is Amgen's a widely held company across many portfolios that want a exposure to the healthcare sector. So as a result, for them to actually get down to that level, they would not only have to sell the entire share of a stock, they'd have to really relinquish a lot of exposure in mutual funds and ETFs. Or they could say, no, I'm going to hold 3% of the single stock and then get out of Amgen across the other holdings. Well, that means they're going to upheaval? That's an upheaval to their portfolio because now they got to sell so many of the mutual funds and ETFs. It is nearly impossible to get that holding down to 2 or 3% as a result because they have to reallocate the entire thing. This becomes the problem in twofold. Owning thousands of companies across mutual funds and ETFs, and in addition, compounding problem of having 2 or more advisors. To get the portfolio allocation correct, the risk reward correct, and having the right kind of companies in there is very, very difficult, if not nearly impossible, when those are the scenarios. Not the best path to a confident equity holding future, especially in retirement when you want more control, not less. So what would you prefer? Less control or more control? It's an important question to ask and then get answered.